Yes. It's all about people who've like circumnavigated the world. They're astronauts. They're yeah. And the 50 young explorers are really incredible what they're doing. And Amanda Warren is an explorer. Oh, so fun.
John. Hey, if anybody is covered your ear, might be a bit loud.
I'm going to show you. Here we go. I just made a bet with John that I could get the audience to quiet down in less than 5 seconds. Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Richard Weiss. I'm the immediate past president of the Explorers Club. I'd like to welcome you here for this, I'm going to say, historic occasion of talking about something a little different than we normally talk about. But before we start, I just want to ask, who's here for the first time? Wow. You know what? And I'm going to introduce our president in just a second, but Richard Garrett, I'm just going to brag about the room for a second. This room, I'm a Yankee fan, and you go to Yankee Stadium and you say, Babe Ruth stood here, or Lou Gehrig, or any of those things. First of all, if you look at that sledge above the doorway, that is the first sledge to go to the North Pole. And, you know, as you might have seen when you downstairs, it will say our members are the first to the North Pole, members are first to the South Pole, first to the Moon, first to the Mariana Trench. You know, And Mount Everest, yeah, of course. Ed Hillary stood here with his hands on this lectern. Jane Goodall has, and the list goes on and on and on. But what's really interesting, and it's sort of apropos to tonight's lecture, if you talk to Jane Goodall or Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin or any explorers, myself or Richard, everybody will tell you about their childhood experience wandering through the woods on a beach, down by the ocean, on a mountain. All of these things were very influential, to their development. And I just left my 2 boys at home. Their Little League practice was canceled, and of course immediately they're on to their electronic games. And, I think for the first time in history, it's as interesting or maybe more interesting for kids to be inside, involved with electronics. So that really brings me to the introduction of our president of an organization. So Richard Garriott, beyond being just a second-generation astronaut, his father was a Skylab Apollo astronaut, also invented the term avatar. So how did he invent the term avatar? By being pretty damn creative and smart. That's how he did. But Richard really is the perfect person really to sort of tell you how this fits in. And so please give a warm welcome to Richard Garriott.
Thank you, Richard.
So, Richard, how did and I know this story because I've heard it more than once, how did the high school Richard Garriott, start on this world of electronics?
No, well, so, it's interesting. As Richard 1 just said, I too, like most of you and most of anybody of generations, close to my age or older, spent most of my time outdoors. But I'm in that perfect age bracket where when I was in high school, that's when personal computers were invented. And I happened to have a knack for that. And so despite having a father who was an astronaut, as you heard, my mother was a naturalist and an artist. If you think of the best high-tech art, high technology and art, I would say computer games are right at that intersection. And so it's probably not surprising that I became one of the first ever developers of computer games, and part of that journey was creating the word avatar. But when Richard 1 introduced me to John Mack, he did so because knowing John and knowing me, he knew that we were kindred spirits. And while we came at the same questions, but often from the opposite perspectives, I came to it. I was one of the creators of these virtual environments and was frankly as shocked as any of us would be about how successful they were. And, I was having fun doing it, but it has outgrown even my wildest positive expectations of what it could have become, by many orders of magnitude. And so when he introduced me to John, I, of course, was overjoyed and flabbergasted. And so for those of you who don't know John has spent a lot of time as an artist exploring the natural world, but then also observing how the virtual realms were beginning to displace or become overlays or become a co-joined part of the human experience that was competing for people's mind share. And of course, I was one of the people creating that competition in some sense of the word. But as we got to know each other, John asked me to write the foreword for a book that is coming out here later this year called A Land Between Worlds, The Shifting Poetry of the Great American Landscape. And also he's now working on an exhibition called A Species Between Worlds, which will also open up, I think, about the same time here in New York. And as he told me the idea that he has for this exhibition, and I'll let him tell you about it if that's part of his journey tonight, but it is a truly brilliant, in my mind, way to show to people the evidence of and the importance of discussing and thinking about the fact that we all are, and especially our children are, spending such a disproportion of their time no longer in the real world, but people will be. It's not a question of if, they will be spending more and more of their time in what you might think of as a virtual world. And that has substantial questions about the future of humanity, substantial issues that really need to be wrestled to the ground, starting with, the big question of like, who are you really? Are you the bag of flesh that your brain inhabits? Do your roles and responsibilities as a human transcend you becoming a virtual self? When you meet other virtual characters in a virtual world, what are your moral obligations of that interaction? When we begin to blur the lines with AI to where you don't even know if the person's real or not, and how should you behave as a person? How should you behave to those other people? What do we do about the natural world? I mean, I personally I'm not particularly worried about people plugging into the point where they don't feed themselves, but we're already seeing the state where people spend their time, I spend my time walking to the Explorers Club with my phone in hand doing emails instead of even, to avoiding tripping on the sidewalk, much less making eye contact with people and having real human interactions, much less being in a natural park, turning over the next stone to see what animals or bugs or insects are living under there. And so this is a serious topic that I think John has been exploring extremely diligently, extremely articulately, beautifully, and I think we're going to hear a little bit about that tonight. But I know it just, even for me, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when I saw him in that room, he was wearing like a suit coat anyway, and he's not now. I think we're in for some surprises.
Yeah, let me just add one thing before Richard leaves. First of all, Richard, I didn't think anybody underdressed more than you did at the club, so congratulations on that. But
it's where I wear even coat.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention that the Explorers Club has been on its own journey. We mentioned that all these firsts, the Explorers Club started primarily as a white male European club. And of recent, we have made a clear choice that if we are going to solve the problems of the world, that it needs to be all hands on deck, and that, what you wear and the color of your skin or even your status in wealth really has no bearing to how you're able to observe the world or even communicate it with something. So as a result, we've had, for the last 2 years, a very successful program called the Explorers Club 50. And the slogan is 50 people who are changing the world that the world needs to know about. And part of the mandate was diversity. And it's not just diversity of race or religion, but it's really the diversity of ideas. What makes an explorer isn't necessarily someone who drives a sledge or has an ice axe or travels in a spacecraft, but it's sometimes how people describe the world they see around them. And so we feel that the intersection, and Richard could speak to this a little better, is that whole idea that artists and poets, they're also, describing things, and they're also hitting people at a level that maybe someone with a PhD might not. So John is very much part of that Explorers Club 50, and you're actually the first EC 50 person out of your class this year to speak. There's a big symposium on Friday, but he really embodies what you look for in that crusade of explaining the world around us. So we're more than pleased to not only have John. I know his family is here, and I think more than two of you call him your friend. So it's good to know that you have a friendly audience. It's sort of like when comedians go in there and they have a couple people in there that they know will laugh at their jokes. So, and John wanted to also say, if he says something that you disagree with, please do not slap him.
Okay. So please welcome to the podium, John Mack.
Thank you so much for that introduction. This T-shirt doesn't feel appropriate after listening to that. But wow, what an honor it is to be here to take this podium here at the Explorers Club in New York, really. Thank you for this. Thanks for coming out tonight. I thought that in this world of chaos right now, it would be really, really nice to just kind of take a step back and go for a walk in a park and to explore our nature. So as these Richards have said, I've been working on a project that comes out in September here in New York City, and I've been traveling the world to some of the most incredible natural landscapes, most of which have been here in the United States at U.S. national parks. I've traveled to over 50 U.S. national parks in over 6 years, and I just want to share with you some of the incredible opportunities that these parks have to offer. So there I am here, and I love this picture because I don't know, actually I don't know where I am, but before shooting this, I had a haircut in New York City here, and my hairdresser, he gave me this great gel that he said it would keep the hair very still in the wind. So I brought it with me out to this site, and I love how it's just sort of, it's just staying really perfectly there. And I purposely wore this white shirt. I didn't want any distraction. You know, it's just white. I didn't want any like letters or designs on it because I wanted all the attention sort of on my face. And I shot this as the sun was sort of going down to get that sort of cross light. And yeah, I love that. Here I am in, I don't know where that is, but I'm trying to, is it Badlands? It might be Badlands, whatever, it doesn't matter. But so what I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to hold a cloud with my hand, you know? And I've got my selfie camera, and those clouds are moving quickly, and every time this hand adjusts sort of the wrong way, then this hand has to compensate. It's extremely difficult to do. And I failed miserably. It doesn't look like I'm touching or holding a cloud there. But the hair does look good. But actually, that's not the thing I like least about this. The thing that I like least about this image is all that junk on the right. So I just cropped that out, and it makes this great Instagram post. And so I don't know, for those of you who don't use Instagram, this is a social media platform, and it's incredible because this is pretty much my own space. Like, I can do whatever I want, post my own photographs. So up here you see John Mack posts. So this is my own space for self-expression. And then, my friends and people can just like my stuff. Check it out. 112 likes. Not bad for me. And they can comment. I got 7 comments. So, boom. Love that. So here's another. This is like some sandy place somewhere. But actually, my hair looks, actually, I don't even know why I'm showing this. My hair looks so bad there. And look at how my camera strap is like tugging on my sweater. Yeah, I hope I didn't post that one. This is, oh God, where am I here? No. I know, it's the float plane that does it. I'm in Alaska here. I don't know the national park, but I'm in Alaska. Perhaps, doesn't matter, whatever. And so I'm in this airplane and we're landing and I've got the windows open. My hair is a disaster when I land, so I put this bandana around my head, which made it look all right. And actually, while I'm taking this shot, this jerk pilot says to me, "Hey, try going to a national park without taking a selfie." And I'm like, he said, "You're addicted to your phone." I said, "Whatever, dude. You fly a friggin' float plane. Your job is to fly like a Tonka toy. Don't tell me what I'm addicted to." And so anyway, I cropped that guy out, and I got this great post, and I got what, like 164 likes on this one, right? Not bad. Love that. So, I mean, I'm not addicted to my phone. Totally. Check out that TikTok I just sent you. So actually, on the way back, we flew back to Anchorage, Alaska, and he said to me, we had a heart-to-heart, and he said, "John, the next time you go to a national park, don't bring your phone. Leave it in your hotel, leave it in your tent, in your car, whatever. Don't bring it with you." And I said, "Why would I do that?" And he said, "I'm telling you, you're missing something." I said, "You know what? I'll do it for you." He said, "Do it for yourself." "Whatever, dude. I'll just do it for you." So my next stop was Joshua Tree National Park in California, and I didn't bring my phone with me. And let me show you what it looked like. Totally boring. I mean, there is no color, there is no vitality, there is no life in this landscape. Actually, this actual spot at Joshua Tree is called Hall of Horrors. That's the actual name on the map of this place. And I know why they call it that. It is horrible here. There's zero to do. The only thing to do here is walk around the desert. Now, That's not my quote. This comes from a book by an illustrator named Amber Scher called Subpar Parks, where she actually takes real reviews of national parks from Reddit and combines that with illustrations that she makes. So here you see on the cover, America's most extraordinary national parks and their least impressed visitors. And you see the guy there with his phone, he's giving it a 1-star rating. So if I only had my phone, I would have given it a 1-star here. This place was terrible. Don't ever go to this place. This is, I don't know, whatever national park, who cares? Somewhat bland. Definitely, I could not agree more. Terrible, these places. This is, oh, I know this park. Get this. So that cactus there, that's called a saguaro cactus. Okay, it's a specific type of cactus. And they named this park after a cactus. It's called Saguaro National Park. So let me just translate that for you. Specific Cactus National Park. I mean, are you kidding me? That is super boring. Who cares? Okay if you like cactus. I could not agree more with that. I didn't like cactus, so that about did it for me. Whatever this is, I mean, if we name it like saguaro, we could just call this Random Rock in Ocean National Park. No wow factor. Could not agree more. So it was actually in this landscape where I realized this jerk from Alaska has me traveling around the United States, bored out of my mind, wasting time and money. And it was a great time to realize this because this was actually in 2016. And in 2016, this incredible gaming app came out called Pokemon Go. Okay? Now, for those of you who don't know what Pokemon Go is, I'm going to explain it. This game was made by Niantic. And this is the screen view of Pokemon Go. So you're seeing a virtual version of my physical environment. So you see my, the real ocean on the left and the virtual ocean on my phone. And now there's an avatar in the middle of the phone. You can't really see it, but I'm tethered to that avatar. So when I walk, that avatar is linked to me. He walks as well. And you'll see there's this little ball there. It's red and white. It's called a Pokeball. And what this game is, it's a geolocation-based game that has... It projects these digital creatures all over the world called Pokemon. And the object of the game is to go out into the world and capture these things. And you use these little balls to do it. They're like these cages, these little prisons. I'll show you how it works. So this is a Drifloon. This is one of the Pokemon that I went to catch. And here you can see the ball. This is the cage, the trap. And I throw it at him. And boom, I get him. And now watch this. Watch this. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Gotcha. I love that. I love that gotcha thing. So you might think, oh my God, this is so boring. Why would you ever play this? But really, I kept researching. I thought the same thing, but I kept researching this. And I found videos of adults, not kids, adults who were playing this game on the job. Look at some of these videos here. Here we go.
84 in St. Pete right now. Got a Pokemon?
The Pokemon Go craze is affecting everyone, even news reporters. During the morning weather forecast at Tampa station WTSP, meteorologist Bobby Deskins got interrupted in the middle of his report.
St. Pete right now. Got a Pokemon? She's looking at Pokemon right now. This is the location. You guys got to be careful with these phones and this Pokemon. You're just walking around all over the place.
Just walking around all over the place. If you thought that was funny, check this out. This is an ISIS briefing at the State Department in Washington, D.C.
To confront them in the information space. As the Secretary said earlier today, though, and I think it's an important reminder, you're playing the Pokemon thing right there, aren't you?
I'm just keeping an eye on it.
It's an important reminder. We know this won't be easy. We recognize it's a challenge, and we're clear-eyed about the work we still have to do. This is why we convene this important ministerial, and we'll continue to work with our coalition partners to defeat Daesh. Did you get one?
No, the signal's not very good.
I'm sorry about that. Brad.
So he said, no, the signal wasn't good. So you need data service to play Pokemon Go, and he didn't have it. So if this doesn't do it for you, this is what really sort of turned the trick for me. This is called a Pokemon Go stampede.
Taiwan Pokemon Go players stampede, searching for Snorlax. Thousands of people flocked to Beitou, a northern district of the Taiwanese capital Taipei, on Saturday, but not for its famous hot springs. No, sir. There were Pokemon Go players competing against each other to catch a rare Pokemon known as Snorlax. And you can see...
So they didn't go there for the hot springs. They went there to chase a Snorlax, a type of Pokemon. And then the thing that really did it for me when I knew I just had to join this bandwagon was, here's a stampede that took place in Santa Monica, California. And this is from the point of view of inside a stampede.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. What is happening? Oh God. Oh, there it is.
Okay, so that's what did it. And I said, I got to play this game. So I downloaded the game. And the first thing that I did was I went back to the national parks. I hopped on a plane and I went down to Florida to Biscayne National Park. And this is what it looks like without Pokemon Go running. Super boring. And then check this out. Boom! I mean, look at that. That is incredible. I mean, look at what a beautiful day that is. It just brings colors back right to my life. Incredible. Check this out. This is on the other side of the United States, off the coast of Los Angeles. This is Channel Islands National Park. Super boring. Boom! Pokemon Go. Look at that water. I mean, to have colors back in my life is just incredible. I love this game. This is, whatever, it's just a river. This is Teddy Roosevelt National Park. Boom, check that out. Love it. This is Isle Royale National Park. And I go to load up Pokemon Go. No cell service and terrible Wi-Fi. Okay? What does that mean? It meant that I'm stuck in this landscape of boredom, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I know all my friends are catching Pokemon, so I know I'm missing out on the action, and I had this like anxiety in me, almost like this crazy withdrawal not to be able to play this game. And I went back to my hotel, and I did some research. I wanted to figure out, what is it about this game? I mean, why was I so addicted to it? And in my hotel, I was led to a YouTube video. And I learned that in just 1 month of its release, Pokemon Go had already won 5 Guinness World Records. I'll show this to you here. So that was it. So why does this interest me? It interests me because I was part of that. I helped make that success. And I really wanted to know what was going on inside of me to allow that, to participate in something like that. And so I did some research, and I was led to something called self-determination theory. Now, you might say, oh, whatever, dude, I really don't want to learn this. But at some point in our lives, we have to step up to the plate, right? We have to go inside and discover and figure out, why am I reacting this way? Why am I addicted to these things? Why am I behaving the way that I do? So, self-determination theory. This is a macro theory of human motivation. And the gurus on this topic are two psychologists named Richard Ryan and Edward Deci. And they wrote a book called Intrinsic Motivation and Self-Determination in Human Behavior. And you'll excuse me, I'm going to read from this book, and I'll be looking down. So, within the history of empirical psychology, various theories have considered the concept of human needs. Some have focused on needs that are based in physiological processes that underlie drive states, whereas others have focused on needs that are conceptualized in terms of psychological processes. Self-determination theory falls within the second category in that we conceptualize needs at the psychological level. Yet our approach differs from most other approaches that theorize about psychological needs because we posit a core set of psychological needs that, like physiological needs, are universally essential for optimal human functioning, regardless of developmental epoch or cultural setting. Now, just to be clear, these psychological needs are absolutely separate from the physiological needs. And the reason I mention that is I just recorded a conversation with Yuval Harari, the author of *Sapiens*. And this is one of the big topics we spoke about in our conversation. Is psychology separate from the physical body? So I'll get back into the book here. Self-determination's three basic psychological needs are those for autonomy, relatedness, and competence. Autonomy is a form of functioning associated with feeling volitional, congruent, and integrated. Relatedness concerns feeling socially connected. People feel relatedness most typically when they feel cared for by others, yet relatedness is also about belonging and feeling significant among others. Competence refers to our basic need to feel effectiveness and mastery. People need to feel able to operate effectively within their important life contexts. Now, when someone has each of these three needs realized at once, they are said to be happy. And some may know this theory as the ARC of happiness or the arc of happiness. And I'm going to turn this to an article written by consumer psychologist Paul Marsden. This is called The Psychology of Pokemon Go. Augmented reality creates augmented self. And I'll just read here quickly here. Pokemon Go promotes a sense of autonomy by opening the door to an augmented world and empowering you to explore freely. In other words, the game promotes a sense of self-navigation, of individual autonomy. Pokemon Go fosters a sense of relatedness, feeling connected to others with both in-game social interaction and by providing a new, conversation-worthy, but inclusive experience with few barriers to entry. The free-to-play, easy-to-play formula can create a sense of we-relatedness through a cultural activity that has conversational currency. We play Pokemon Go and we feel part of something bigger than ourselves. Pokemon Go builds a sense of competence with challenges, achievements, levels, feedback, and rewards. Providing players with an enhanced sense of competence and mastery is a standard game mechanic that has been linked to increased levels of participation. Now, Houston, we have a problem here. What happens when one of those needs is not met? What happens, say, when we don't feel competent? No longer happiness. We enter a state of psychological lack. So any mixture of those variables, unrealized, will bring about this state. So here I am, Isle Royale National Park, and I'm forced to face this landscape of psychological lack. And what do? Well, I call this the landscape of boredom, and I'm going to briefly mention two types of boredom. And I think you'll all sort of relate to these. The first type of boredom, I call it outer boredom. Outer boredom is temporary boredom. It's you're sitting in the doctor's office and you didn't bring a book and, it'll pass once you leave the doctor's office or when they call you. That's temporary boredom. That is the outer boredom. Then there's inner boredom. Inner boredom is not temporary. Inner boredom can last a week, a month, years, a lifetime. It usually surfaces as feelings of meaninglessness, pointlessness, futility, despair. It's the, do I have to wake up in the morning again? It's that feeling. It's the Groundhog Day. The over and over and over. So here I am in front of this landscape, and all I want to do is run away from it. All I want to do is escape. And this starts the virtual endeavor. We move out toward a virtual landscape to fill this emptiness. This movement here is the stampede of Pokemon Go. The masses leaving a landscape of lack and moving toward a virtual construct. Now, my landscape didn't look like this, right? I didn't have self-service. So everywhere I ran, I was faced with boredom. I was stuck in it. I didn't have a distraction. And that's what boredom is when you don't have anything to turn to. It's all around you. And it's a state, nothing's really bad, nothing's really wrong, but there's this huge discomfort that sort of wells up in you and this anxiety that you don't know what to do with. And it's really an enemy that we try to avoid. And what I'm proposing tonight is this. Could this be our best friend, this state? Why? Because it's forcing us to uncover a happiness that is not conditional on anything outside of ourselves. And the question is there a happiness where, actually, I think what this brings up, and yes, I guess we'll talk about it here at the Explorers Club. It's kind of a strange topic to talk about here, but I'll link it to exploring. Self-love. What is self-love? We've all heard this term. We've probably thought about it, the concept, but what is it? Is it standing in front of a mirror and sort of hugging yourself? Maybe. Maybe not. Is it walking down the street and patting yourself on the back and feeling confident? Maybe. Maybe not. What is it in this context that I'm talking about tonight? Could it be that self-love, and this is why I like it here in the Explorers Club, because where the virtual endeavor is an exploration outside of ourselves, could self-love be an exploration inside of ourselves? Could it be that self-love in this context is a knowing that you are autonomous, related, and competent by default of your very nature? To realize this is to have stared this landscape of boredom right in the eyes without flinching, and you transcend the membrane. Now you're outside of the boredom landscape. This is the realization of inner wholeness, of inner completion. Now, I don't want to get too trippy here, but this is alchemy, folks. And there are a few occult symbols that I can put on this, and I'm going to put one on you here tonight. This is the Ouroboros. This is the snake, absolutely satiated on its own existence. It depends on nothing outside of itself. This is freedom. Now, the masters of imagery, or should I say the propaganda machine, they don't want us out here. This would be freedom from their game. They want us in here. They want us to have self-service all the time. Why? That's where they reach us. That's where they put their images in front of our face. The propaganda machine. And it pulls us out, an easy escape, and we chase their baits. And now I just want to present the song here, the Pokemon theme song. Pay attention to the lyrics here.
Searching
just you and me. Love this song, it's great. You're my best friend, in a world we must defend. This is my favorite part, check this out. Yeah. Great. So this is a screenshot from that video. And just a screenshot of one part of that video. Look what we have here. Gotta catch 'em all. Competence. It's you and me. Relatedness. I know it's my destiny. Autonomy. Pretty much what we're saying is Pokemon is happiness. Right? So what do? This is the virtual endeavor. I go from the land of lack to the virtual construct to feel myself complete. Well, Niantic, the makers of Pokemon, see, they're not idiots. They know that at some point this game is going to get old and boring. And rest assured, they have a library of updates to keep you baited. New updates with new colors, with new Pokemon, with new graphics, with new experiences, with new novelty. So watch what happens. Just before this landscape gets too boring, you go right into the next update. Constantly pulled out of yourself. Now, they also know that at some point, no update is going to do it anymore. That the game itself will grow old and people will be looking for something else. So what do they have in store? They come out with a Harry Potter game, Harry Potter Wizards Unite. It was sort of the next Pokemon Go. And this was actually a total flop. It did terribly. And the bad news for Niantic is that their consumers, or the consumed, are going to look somewhere else. So they will lose market share in the gaming world. But here's the great thing about the virtual endeavor. It's fleeting. That is the great thing, because it always brings you back to your best friend, to penetrate that membrane. But here we are now at the metaverse today. And there's something very peculiar about this metaverse thing that I'll talk about later in this lecture. Let's take a look at what the metaverse might look like in a few years' time. Just gonna jump around here. Skip around. This is a mixed reality metaverse. You're seeing a mixture of reality and virtuality.
Hi, dear.
Here's your experience at the grocery store.
Buen día, Emilio. ¿Qué puedo hacer por usted? ¿Qué es eso?
I like that ending. So, excuse me. So, this cycle of gain and loss and gain and loss and fulfillment and emptiness and fulfillment and emptiness, as it's gaming, we're going to put this in the category of life, of recreation. Right? This is what someone does when they're just relaxing. These are gamers. They like to play. But we can just as well put this in the category of work profession. Let's say that landscape on the right is one of incompetence, a feeling of incompetence, psychological lack. Let's say this person is unemployed. What happens? Well, they get a job. Now they feel complete. But that also is going to get old. They want to move up in the world. They want the better paycheck. So what happens? Okay, now they move up to manager before that gets old. And this keeps going on and on and on. Now, this manager here, he can either move to another company at the same level or he can stay where he is. But it's going to get boring at some point, and he's going to have to move up. So let's say you reach the height of a company. Let's say you've made it all the way up to, say, CEO. Okay? Well, that's sort of the end of the ladder there at a company. So what do you do after? You're going to be forced to see your best friend again, right? The landscape of boredom when you retire. But let's not even go there yet. This CEO, he can't go back to being a manager. You can't go back. See, the thing with these, the reason why I have these landscapes stacked on the right, they're actually all the same landscape, but the reason why they're stacked is because I'm trying to show a change in our tolerance for boredom. And I'll give you an example. I remember when Avatar came out, the movie, I saw it in 3D IMAX, and I was just blown away by the effects and the screen and the three-dimensionality of it all. And one thing that stuck in my mind was, how is anybody going to be able to go back to a normal movie theater after this? So this is showing a sort of a level of numbness, and I'm wondering if some of the attention problems that we have nowadays, people not being able to read books, only looking at videos, not being able to go to a national park without being with the landscape, always needing their phone on them, does it have to do with a numbness? Because what happens is the more efficiently we are fed, the more difficult the withdrawal. So let's say that the CEO gets lucky. Let's say he reaches the highest office. Let's say he becomes, just a moment. Let's say he becomes the President of the United States of America. He can't get higher. Well, even if you're lucky to win 2 terms, at some point it's going to be over. And again, the great thing about the virtual endeavor is you're always delivered back to your best friend. And the question is, at what point will self-love happen to penetrate this membrane? We can also take this to the category of relationships. Let's say that landscape over there is one of unrelatedness. Well, rather than doing your homework first, and I really mean your home work, you depend on someone else to do it for you. So she moves out and starts dating Paul. Now she feels related, complete. Well, she introduces Paul to her friends and family, and they don't really like him, so now she feels kind of incompetent because she didn't get a good one, right? So Paul kind of like fades out of the picture, gets rid of Paul, but rather than facing that landscape of lack, see, that's what the rebound is. The rebound is the avoidance of the withdrawal. So this person goes straight into a relationship with someone else, Chris, let's say. And this just keeps happening and happening and happening. Now you're with, I don't know, who's the next one? Jeff. So the thing is, the fair question is this. If you had done your homework first, how many of these relationships really would have lasted as long as they did? How many would have lasted longer? How many wouldn't have begun to begin with? And yet again, at some point, you're delivered back to your best friend. Right? Now, I'm not saying that we're not supposed to live a life without relationships and without work. That's not what I'm saying. That is life. My question is this. The life that we're living, is it done from a place of dependence or is it done from a place of freedom? See, when it's done from a place of dependence, this is all a cycle of suffering. When it's done from a place of freedom, this becomes a life like a walk in the park. That's what life becomes. So we can actually take this to another category. Let's take it to the spiritual, devotional part of our lives, right? Let's say you were born into this world and you were born as a Catholic. Well, the Messiah didn't show up, right? So now you've moved out and you've gone over to the New Age movement and say you're doing yoga now to show your practice and dedication, and you got super flexible, but, enlightenment didn't show up at your doorstep. And then you move over to Buddhism, and I guess, you're meditating, and you meditate every day for a month, for a year, for the rest of your life, and you just really hope that one day enlightenment hits you on the top of the head before you fall asleep again in your meditation. And that doesn't work. So you move on to the ayahuasca ceremony in Brazil, And you come back home and you advertise your experience to all your friends and you say, oh, it was so great. I had this great consciousness shift. And what happens? You go back to Brazil to do it again. Why? Why? Because it wasn't the real thing. And you do the cycle over and over and over again. And my question is, when are you going to throw it all away and do it for real? Now, there's something very peculiar, as I said, about this metaverse thing. All of our life categories are finding a niche in the metaverse. And you might say, oh, well, that's no big deal because that's the virtual endeavor. That's just going to be fleeting and you'll eventually see your best friend again. Not with technology. Not with the future that's coming. On the horizon, and I do say on the horizon, not over the horizon, is the brain-computer implant and an artificial intelligence that is beyond what we can imagine. And when this implant goes into the human brain, when the human becomes the cyborg, this gets solidified, and I call this an inverse universe, and I don't want to get into it too much, but I will say this. In the inverse universe, illusion becomes the new truth. And it's happening as we speak. And here's the thing. When we're cyborgs, we are locked in here. This is eternal satiation in the virtual construct. And you will never again be able to face that best friend of yours. This is the future that's on its way. And I can tell you right now, don't buy into it. Now, this is it's been an abstract sort of schema that I've had here. And I just want to dump a few words on this schema. And you can choose whichever one sort of relates to you that you feel most familiar with, just to sort of help ground what it is that we're talking about. Try and get back here. This thing goes too fast. So, within the boredom landscape, and make no mistake, as entertaining as that landscape is in the middle, that is housed within the space of boredom. Okay? If you feel great in your relationship and you feel related, that might be housed in the landscape of unrelatedness. So we could call this area the dimension of drama. Sorry, I can't get this clicker right. I'm doing the pointer. The dimension of doing. If that's the dimension of doing, then that's the dimension of non-doing or not doing. That's the content of our consciousness. That out there would be the contentless consciousness. The dimension of virtual reality, and I don't just mean virtual reality of the digital device, but also the virtual reality of the psyche device, illusion, projection, what some people might know as Maya, the dimension of reality outside of that, the dimension of separation, dimension of union, dimension of duality, dimension of oneness, fourth dimensional consciousness, fifth dimensional consciousness, suffering, non-suffering. And I've specifically put here gravity and weightlessness because I want to get a little bit weird on you. Suffering there's a gravity to it. We all know this. Okay? Outside of that is a weightlessness. And the reason why I bring these two words up here is because that landscape of boredom, this is just a schema. It's not that we have two planes on either side of us. No. When you're in a state of boredom, it's all around you. It's up, down, left, right. And you are the center of that landscape. You're the one, it's your perception, it's your programming that has taken the vitality out of the landscape. So if you're the center, and it's all around you, and if there's a membrane to it, then you're actually in a sphere. It's a spherical dimension. And this is not just true to individuals, but if it is just true to individuals, it is also true as a collective. And this is the collective consciousness of planet Earth. This is planetary consciousness, off-planet consciousness. And now remember that blue circle of completion that lied outside of the membrane? There it is, outside of the membrane. And here is the Ouroboros. That Ouroboros, see, we want to puncture that Ouroboros and get to the other side through self-love. A life with that Ouroboros is a threshold, known in occult sciences as the ring pass not. Life inside that Ouroboros, that is the 1-star rating. And it is our job through ascension to get off the pull of gravity through self-love and arrive outside off-planet. This is the eternal rating, the eternal star rating of life. This is deep, deep beauty out here. Now, I want to hold it here for a second because I want to speak very briefly about portals. Portals are all over this planet, usually in nature. I've come by a few of them in the national parks. And I want to tell you, so I'm speaking physical now, not consciousness. There is a portal physically off planet. And this is it's a term coined by a writer named Frank White. It's called the overview effect. And he's written about how astronauts and cosmonauts alike have had slight shifts in consciousness when they're looking at the world from above. And if you have any questions about that, you can ask astronaut Richard Garriott. Now, I'm not saying that we all have to be astronauts and go out there to do this. No, I'm saying, actually, if you want to know how expensive that is, you can also ask astronaut Richard Garriott. What I'm saying is, realize the space in you. So just a kind of a funny story. My daughter, she turned 15, and she had a birthday party, and a friend of hers got her this mirror, and the friend wrote with a Sharpie a quote on this mirror, and I read it, and I thought, no, not in my house. And definitely not when my daughter's looking in the mirror. And I looked it up actually on, it's like all over Pinterest. It's one of these wise comments that fly around everywhere. No, this is a wise guy comment. And so what happened is when my daughter came back from school, I said, hey, Lucia, can you show me that mirror and just read me that quote that's on it? She said, sure. So she read it to me. This is what it is. And like the moon, we must go through phases of emptiness to feel full again. And I said, Lucia, that's how the moon looks like from Earth. She said, what do you mean? I said, what does the moon look like from the positioning of the sun? And she said, always full. And I said, exactly. Don't buy into it, Lucia. Move your positioning to the source of light, and then you're always full. And you know what she said to me? I thought she said, whatever, dude. She said, thanks, Papa. I go, I mean, so sweet. She's so amazing. So, we need to move off this planet, and I'll tell you why. Because there is a future coming. This picture here, as funny as it is real. This is happening. And the question that this begs is, who's the Pokemon being caught? This is the digital takeover of human consciousness. It is happening as we speak. I kid you not. This is eternal satiation by the virtual construct. It is the eternal prison. Gotcha. So now I'd like to head back to the national parks with this video.
There were 2 deaths this week at the Grand Canyon. One man accidentally went over the edge while taking a selfie. Janet Shamlian has more on this story.
The Grand Canyon is a landscape of irresistible vistas. Officials say it's where a tourist traveling from Hong Kong died after falling 1,000 feet while using a selfie stick. It happened close to, but not on, the rail-protected skywalk.
We always say that the zoom button is your friend. Make sure that you use that if you want to get a good photo of the canyon.
Last fall at Yosemite, a travel blogging couple fell 800 feet to their deaths. A photographer spotted them moments earlier at the edge of a cliff. A study found in a 7-year period, 259 people worldwide died while taking selfies. More than 70% were men, who researchers say took more risks to get a dramatic shot.
3, 2, 1.
Tech giants have promoted a culture of selfies, and social media is full of daring photos. The rugged 277-mile-long Grand Canyon makes safety rails impossible.
It's a dynamic mountain environment where there's many places where you could fall or walk or hike. There's no way to enclose it.
Experts say the best protection is common sense.
Makes me a little nervous.
Janet Shamlian, CBS News, San Francisco.
So there we go. People trading in their lives for a virtual construct. And my question is, are we trading in our souls for the same? Remember me out here, taking this picture? My own space for self-expression, autonomy, 112 likes, competence, 7 comments, relatedness. Instagram is happiness. And how about this guy here at the Grand Canyon? If he didn't have his phone, would the landscape to him have looked like this? Just a hole? Probably. And the question is the hole out there or is the hole in here? And if he could fill that hole with his own colors through self-love and penetrated that membrane, would he realize his true nature? All I saw was a lake, mountains, and some trees. Well, the next time that's all you see, think about self-love and penetrating that membrane. Is your nature on the other side? Save yourself some money. I mean, it's just too good, right? Yellowstone National Park. And if you could save yourself, would you realize the eternal spring? This is at Tunnel View, which is one of the most beautiful sites. This is at Yosemite National Park, Tunnel View. Trees block view and there are too many gray rocks. Well, what's on the other side of the tunnel? Could it be pure light itself?
In the last week, we've noticed visitors coming to national parks using their phones to look for elusive digital creatures. We'd like to welcome all you trainers to your national parks, where you might find more than just a new virtual companion. It's exciting to explore new places, and the National Park Service has some great ones in store for you. We have icy tundra, grassy plains, gleaming mountains, placid farms, forests with towering trees and amazing rock formations. National parks are great places to see the best animals and learn the coolest stories. So while you're chasing virtual monsters to add to your collection, take a look around at the beauty of these places. Breathe in the fresh air, enjoy the history. Parks are amazing places to run and play, to hike and to bike, to wander and to learn. Just make sure to keep your eyes open and stay safe. We don't want you stumbling off the path or running into some of our real wildlife while you're looking for the flying, swimming, and crawling creatures on your screens. So go have fun. Get out and explore. That's why we're here. This year, the National Park Service is celebrating its 100th birthday with a campaign called Find Your Park. We've got more than 400 places for you to find, and we know you got to catch them all. So good luck.
So this photo, I'm going to end it here on this photograph. This is Kings Canyon National Park. And as Richard Garriott said, he wrote the foreword to a poetry book that I have coming out in September called A Land Between Worlds, The Shifting Poetry of the Great American Landscape. And I just want to read to you the poem that I wrote with this image. This place in the park is called Kearsarge Pass. This is why we amateurs reach for our cameras. Go ahead. Put the phone between yourself and Kings Canyon. Shoot it all you want. But it won't change anything. It being no different than the disconnect which prompts you to reach for it in the first place. The incomplete experience pocketed for completion at a more convenient time. But when? At home on a computer screen? With likes on social media? What is there to share, really? Half? A portion? A potential of what could have been? Is this what our nature is worth? A pass? That ends the lecture here, and thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Brooke.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, if I can steal the microphone from you here for just a second, and Brooke, if you would, or Will, if you'd bring that over. First of all, that was a truly brilliant presentation. I think he clearly showed why he is spectacularly worthy of being one of our Explorers Club 50, one of the 50 people changing the world that the world needs to know about. I was checking my phone there. I'm level 35 in Pokemon Go. What are you?
Oh, God, I'm really good at it. Yeah. I tell you, the funniest thing about this project, if I could just jump in here,
Please.
was I had to take screenshots while I was at these sites. So I had an iPad with me, and I would load up Pokemon Go to see what the landscape looked like in the virtual world. And there are times when I'm standing at the screen, looking at the screen, and there are these Pokemon there that I don't want in the picture, and I actually have to capture them to get them off the screen. And I would have kids around me like, Mom, he gets to play Pokemon Go. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm not really playing Pokemon Go. Like, well, whatever, dude. You're playing Pokemon Go. Anyway.
Yeah, but you can also understand as one of the people who helps create these virtual worlds why we have just a lot of fun talking together about life, these amazing projects you've been working on. I haven't heard you speak publicly before. This was truly a joy for me also to hear this. Richard One and I were here talking about the fact that you've got to take this on the road. There are so many people that need to hear this story. In September, when he's doing his exhibition here in New York, it's not just an exhibition; it's also a week or longer period, a month-long period of time where we're going to, the Explorers Club is going to be a part of this. We're going to bring in speakers to discuss this subject matter and what this means and what we should be thinking about it as individuals and society. This is a really important question, and it is deeply part of exploration. It is deeply part of our club. We are pleased and proud to have you as a member. And as a truly minor point of appreciation, but I hope you will appreciate this. When people come here to give their a lecture, we like to give them this certificate of thanks. So
thank you, wonderful.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to be staying here for questions after?
Yes, questions and answers. Yes, and I would like to say on the point of September and this month-long sort of forum that we have going on. For more information, you can go to aspeciesbetweenworlds.com, or you can go to the foundation that I've created at life-calling.org. So, and now I guess, can I open to questions and answers? And
you didn't answer my question.
oh yeah, what's your question, Richard?
I said I'm level 35. What are you doing?
No, I'm not that good at it. I'm not that good at it.
John, really moving and impressive. Just a quick question in terms of, one thing that it feels like everyone is really being pushed towards, which is meditation. Where do you think meditation falls within the category? Is it self-love? Is it guiding you towards that self-love, or is it something different?
Alex, do you think that was loud enough? Should I repeat the question there? Or?
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
For streaming, it's fine.
It's a great, fair question. So, I was with a friend of mine in Israel about a month ago after filming with Yuval, and he does Vipassana meditation, and he loves it. Actually, Yuval does Vipassana as well. And he'll meditate for days. And I sat down and spoke to him, and I said, and so what does that do for you? He said, well, it's about enlightenment, and, it's difficult, and you just try to observe, and I said, are you enlightened yet? He said, no, but it can take years. He said, they say sometimes it can take thousands of lifetimes of meditating. And I'm thinking, really? Like, how do I not sign up to do that, right? And then he said something interesting. He said, it really helps with anger management and with stress. And okay, I dig that. That's good. That's good. So there are two things there. One, it takes lifetimes. Sorry, that's not for me. First of all, that just shows it's a means to an end. That is a doing. You can't do enlightenment. Now, the fact that also, and I'll just go back, could it be that all of this repetition is just the mind's addiction to process? I'm not saying we're addicted to process because it feels good, but that's how the mind functions. It functions on process. And process can go on and on and on. Could enlightenment be the end of the process? And if it is, why are you meditating all the time? I mean, yoga, for example. I mean, if you were enlightened doing yoga, you would just call it what it is, stretching. But we have to glorify it because we want it so badly. So yoga is glorified stretching. Meditation is glorified sitting, and ayahuasca is glorified drug abuse. Sorry. Not for me. But what he did say was very interesting. He said, it helps with anger management. So within that dimension, I'm going to call it the fourth dimension, within that dimension, it does help center you. It does. And it will help with stress, and it will help with anger. But what I'm looking for is a world without anger to manage. A world without stress to manage. That would be puncturing the membrane. So, I think that answers your question. Sure.
Oh, sorry, mine actually does follow on to exactly what you just said. So thank you again for a brilliant presentation and welcome to the club. Do you think a world like that is possible, given the way that we're going and given what's being fed to us every day and exactly what you presented in your lecture? It's a wonderful ideal, but do you think it's even possible from where we are now?
I don't mean this meanly, but what do you care what I think? But how does that change? And I'm sorry, I don't, how is what I think, what does that do for you if I say yes or no? The question is this: if I've struck a chord with you to do the inquiry, then do the inquiry. If I haven't struck a chord, don't do it. I almost want to resist answering that question because I don't want you to believe me. Please don't believe anything I've said tonight. I am not anybody's authority on anything. And belief is exactly what we don't want anymore. That is a virtual construct. It all ends at some point, and you snuggle up with your best friend again. And look, I don't say these things to be provocative. I'm really not in the game of that's not my business, being provocative. I mean, if I said to you all here tonight, we're all in a room with a roof over our head, would that be provocative? No. But if for some crazy reason we all thought here that we were sitting outside and the sun was shining on us, and I said that same thing, we're all in a room with a roof over our head, then you'd think it's provocative. So I don't know if I answered your question. I apologize for being so direct, but really
I've heard the term self-love. I wanted to know what your definition of self-love is, and have you reached self-love? I mean, you talked about it. I'm just curious about your...
So two questions then. It was, how do I define self-love? And then, have I reached self-love? So, how do I define self-love? There are so many ways. I think in the context of what we're talking about here, it would be being free of the program, not updating to another program, not swapping one program for another, but actually being off the program, off memory.
Not needing the validation of the program?
You need the program for the validation. That's why you like the program. Right. And if I've realized self-love, or it's another question. I'll answer it in one way, but my question back to you would be, what does it matter? What does it matter? Have you? And I'm not asking you for that to answer that. I'm saying because I'm not up here for me.
No, just because you were talking about once you have self-love, you're out of that dimension. So,
right.
Yeah,
So what I will say is, I don't talk about things that I don't know. I'm not in the business of being a charlatan. There is not enough time left on this planet for that nonsense.
Hi, thank you for tonight. It seems to me that, by looking at your presentation and hearing you, that the things that are harmful to us are when we use judgment. And I'm not someone who gets bored, so I don't know boredom. But for me, boredom is just being and not judging. And where these people judge the park and judge one star, and this is good, this is bad, this is good, we spend all our days judging things around us as either a good experience or bad experience. This is good, this is right, this is wrong. And if we just got in a place that you call boredom, but I just call being, it's not good nor bad. I'm just wondering why the term judgmentalism and non-judgmentalism really didn't come up tonight, or have you considered that?
Oh, no, it definitely came up tonight. I just didn't state it. But yeah, I mean, we could feed that in as well. Judgment is a program. Right. I mean, because you're going to judge something one way, someone else is going to judge something another way. It's all based on your own memory, your own experience, your own upbringing. your own state of comfort, right? So that is part of the program. So to be off the program, self-love then would lead to a state of non-judgment. And that would be a state, that would be a state of being, of happiness, yes. Yeah. But the question is, before we even go there and ask ourselves if judging is good or bad, because there you're just judging. It's like, one, why are we judging? That's one. And then to get into the nuance of it, why did I judge it this way? Because that's then the exploration inside. And that will lead you to the membrane of the sphere. Does that make sense? More or less?
Oh, I guess I've got the mic. I guess I have to speak. So, one thing that was going through my mind in your amazing presentation was, have you looked at the socioeconomic aspects of this so-called addiction, or the age-related aspects of this addiction? And you know, from what you're showing, it seems like there's no barrier in those levels, and that it's a state of mind. You know that I specifically remember the different stages of us achieving that, you know, metaverse. First, it was the fax. You know, I still have these clear memories of what happened to my life when the fax came out. Being able to send a letter, a message, you know, like a business communication immediately compared to over time. And then the cell phone, and then the personal computer, and then everything else. And it struck me as we go along. And I'm just wondering if, so I've kind of stayed back to where I was originally, and I try not to be too connected to all that, but I'm wondering if in this age, the new generation, if they are going to see that evolution over time and see what's happening to them, or are they completely lost? What's your analysis of that?
Well, so first of all, I don't try to stay away from technology. I mean, I just flew a plane here. I landed yesterday. It was great. I mean, it's much better than a boat, which is also a type of technology, right? And this mic is really helping me tonight. So as far as the technology part of what you're saying is concerned, it's not the technology, it's the dependence on the technology. You know, so these telephones, I often say, these telephones are supposed to be our tools. And we abdicate so much power to the telephones, these devices. They become reality and we become their tools. And so the question is, how do we reverse that equation and restore the power to us so that these things serve as our tools again? Right? So that's to the first part of technology. I'm definitely not a Luddite, and I love technology. As far as, I guess, the new generations coming into such a landscape, is that sort of, are they going to notice? They're not going to notice like we do. And the grandparents that are still alive right now, they really notice. And they're not going to be around much longer. And we're sort of that last generation, right, that can sort of provide that counterpoint to the upcoming generation. But I got to tell you, I'm optimistic, but it's pretty grim right now. I think, you know, one of the most difficult things for me and my daughter is the device. It's one of the most difficult things of parenting for me. Why? Because the companies know what they're doing. They are absolutely bypassing parents intentionally to get to the brains of our children in the formative years. And that should really piss us off. And we should really do something about it. Sorry, I got carried away there. Anything else for that? Yeah. It's exponential, and it's, you know, it's their new nature, and they are really, more than you think, they are really depending on us.
John, first a comment. I think you definitely have either a TED Talk in you or a new religion. So.
Ooh. If you want religion, go that way.
Yeah. Well, L. Ron Hubbard was a member here. So.
Oh my goodness, no. I'm going to say it again. I don't believe a word I said tonight.
So I'm going to ask you a little about boredom, because I think in my own childhood and so many other people, to be inside was to be bored, right? And E.O. Wilson, a very famous zoologist from Harvard, said he was so bored and despondent about his home life, he used to sit there and stare at anthills. And he started really understanding it. And so in some sense, that kind of boredom is a real motivator for creativity, right? It forces you to do something. Now, you described a different type of boredom, so I just want to sort of understand the difference.
It's the same. To penetrate the membrane is revolutionary energy. It is creative energy. So when whoever that was bored and yet found something of intrigue, it wasn't because it was a distraction. He was intrigued by it. It wasn't passive. He wasn't consuming. It was active. And that's what we want on this planet. The 1-star rating is passive entertainment. Can we just be done with this? Or at least regulate it? Right? Action.
Speaking about action with live calling, I've got a question with regards to, we're talking about younger generations that are affected by being brought into the metaverse, and definitely related to what you're saying with your daughter, with my little brother, he's 15, and I asked him if he wants to join me this summer to go dive with whales and explore in Colombia for 2-3 months, and he sort of looked at me like, yeah, and there's so much that comes with, there's so much that, you'll come with me? Okay, brilliant, then come, join me. And I'm wondering, there's so much that they learn from growing up in this universe. I mean, two lessons of car lessons. Little brother, you know how to drive already because they're so used to being in these programs. But is there anything you want to do with that specific generation, or with any generation really, to bring this awareness and probably come back to nature? Is there any methods or ways of getting into that?
Well, as a start, when he says, I don't really want to go whale watching, maybe he can't say no to that. Maybe he has to go whale watching with you. Because, I'm telling you, these kids, like us, they don't like being on their phones. They don't like it. Get them outside. They love being outside. It's just that initial step. It's that inertia. It's like, it takes a bit of energy to just kind of step out of it. And once you're out, it's beautiful outside. It's an eternal star rating out there. So just to speak to your question, as a very quick answer, that's where you start. Sometimes my daughter says no, and I don't care. Okay.
Hey, John, thank you for having us here tonight and for a brilliant talk. So a couple things, if you could just talk a little bit more about the portals that you mentioned in the parks. And secondly, I highly doubt that Pokemon Go was really the stimulus for the self-exploration that you've obviously gone through here. And I just wanted to know a little bit about your experience, if you've penetrated the membrane, and if so, could you tell us a little bit about that?
So the portal, excuse me. My conversation here, this lecture, is really about the inner shift first, which changes the perception around you. The portal works reversed. And I don't want to get too hung up on the wording on that, but let's just sit with it. When you confront a portal, it does the shift for you. And in a sense, that's the difficulty. In a sense, that's what all this other stuff is. Ayahuasca, they're trying to create a portal. But it's not coming directly from nature. It's not coming from purity. When you're on ayahuasca, you're on the ayahuasca program. It ends. It's fleeting. Virtuality is always fleeting, except when the inverse universe becomes solidified, and that's what we're moving to. The next question, I think, was about the membrane and how or if I've penetrated the membrane, or Pokemon Go was not the inspiration for all of this. It was a great tool to be able to communicate with people in a way that I haven't seen yet. I think it really grounds. Look, what's happening digitally now, it's all an outer manifestation of what's going on inside of us. These are our creations. It can't be any other way. Artificial intelligence, for example, is the outer manifestation of our limited reason. And since we all worship data and evidence and logic, AI is the new God. So no, Pokemon Go was not sort of the impetus for this, but when I saw it, I had to catch it all. Yeah. It was too good. It's just too clear. It's like slapstick comedy. Yeah.
Thank you.